The Prophet's migration, Hijra. When the Quraysh chiefs finalized their wicked conspiracy, Angel Gabriel descended to the Prophet Muhammad with divine permission to leave Mecca. He informed him of the looming threat and instructed him not to sleep in his usual place that night. At midday, the Prophet visited Abu Bakr, who was surprised by his arrival at such an unexpected time, but soon learned that the divine command for migration had arrived. Abu Bakr eagerly asked to accompany him, and the Prophet agreed. Bukhari 1/553. Meanwhile, the Quraysh leadership assigned 11 men to carry out the assassination. Abu Jahl, Hakam bin Abilaz, Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt, and Nadr bin Harith, Umayyah bin Khalaf, Zama'ah bin al-Aswad, Tuaymah bin Adi, Abu Lahab, Ubay bin Khalaf, Nabi bin al-Hajjaj, and Munbai bin al-Hajjaj. These men surrounded the Prophet's house that night, determined to kill him at dawn. They watched closely through a gap in the door to ensure he was still there, lying in bed. Abu Jahl, full of pride and mockery, walked around proclaiming, "Muhammad says that if you follow him, you'll rule over Arabs and non-Arabs, and be rewarded with gardens like those in Jordan. But if you refuse, you'll be slaughtered and cast into fire after death." Ibn Hisham 1/483. But the plan was destined to fail. Allah, the sovereign of the heavens and the earth, had devised a counterplan, as revealed in the Quran. And, remember, when those who disbelieved plotted against you to restrain you, or kill you, or expel you. They were planning, and Allah was, also, planning. And Allah is the best of planners. Surah Al-Anfal 8:30. Though they had surrounded the house, the Prophet remained inside with Ali. He instructed Ali to sleep in his bed and cover himself with the green cloak, promising him divine protection and safety. As the night progressed, the Prophet exited quietly, threw a handful of dust at the assassins, and recited this verse. And we placed a barrier before them and a barrier behind them and covered them, so they could not see. Surah Yasin 36:9. Invisible to them, he walked away safely and made his way to Abu Bakr's house. The two companions then set off southward, ascending Mount Thor, where they took refuge in a secluded cave. Ibn Hisham 1/483, Zad al-Ma'ad 2/52. The cave refuge and Quraysh's desperation. The assassins waiting outside the Prophet's home anticipated the moment to strike. But someone suddenly alerted them that Muhammad had already escaped. Rushing inside, they were shocked to find Ali, not the Prophet, lying in the bed. The Prophet had slipped away on the 27th of Safar, in the 14th year of prophethood, corresponding to December 13, September 622 CE. Rahmath al-Lil Alameen 195. Aware that Quraysh would pursue him fiercely, the Prophet took an unexpected route. Instead of heading north toward Medina, he headed south, along a road toward Yemen, which no one would suspect. After walking nearly 5 miles, he reached Mount Thor, a rugged and rocky hill. Abu Bakr carried him up the mountain to a cave now known as Cave Thor. Entering first, Abu Bakr ensured the cave was safe, sealing holes with torn pieces of his clothes and cleaning it thoroughly, before allowing the Prophet to enter. Once inside, the Prophet laid his head on Abu Bakr's lap and soon fell asleep. During this time, a poisonous creature stung Abu Bakr's foot. The pain was intense, and tears welled up in his eyes, falling on the Prophet's face. Muhammad awoke, applied his blessed saliva to the wound, and instantly the pain disappeared. They remained in the cave for 3 nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Abdullah, Abu Bakr's son, would visit them after dark, bringing news from Mecca. Before dawn, he would return and blend back into the city to avoid raising suspicion. Meanwhile, Amir bin Fuhaira, Abu Bakr's servant, would secretly bring milk from his herd each night to sustain them. Bukhari 1/553, Ibn Hisham 1/486. Back in Mecca, when the escape of the Prophet and Abu Bakr was confirmed, the Quraysh were furious and confused. They seized Ali, beat him at the Kaaba, and detained him briefly, but he revealed nothing. Frustrated, they then went to Asma, Abu Bakr's daughter, but she too kept the secret. In rage, Abu Jahl struck her so violently that her earring broke. Rahmath al-Lil Alamin 196, Ibn Hisham 1/487. The Quraysh council immediately gathered to assess the crisis. Determined to stop the fugitives, they blocked every route out of Mecca and deployed armed men across all major exits. They also offered a reward of 100 camels for capturing either Muhammad or Abu Bakr. Bukhari 1/554. Horsemen, trackers, and scouts scoured the deserts. At one point, they even reached the mouth of the very cave where the Prophet and Abu Bakr were hiding. Abu Bakr whispered anxiously, "O Messenger of Allah, if they only looked down, they'd see us." The Prophet calmly replied, "Do not be afraid, Abu Bakr. What do you think of two people when the third is Allah?" Bukhari 1/516, Mukhtasar Seerat ar Rasul, page 168. Though the pursuers were just steps away, they never saw the two men by Allah's decree. They remained hidden for 3 days. The journey resumes, guided and guarded. After 3 nights in Cave Thor, the man Abdullah bin Urayqit arrived, not yet a Muslim, but a trusted guide chosen by Abu Bakr. He brought with him 2 camels, as planned. His news that the Quraysh's search had eased gave the Prophet and Abu Bakr the signal to move. Abu Bakr offered the Prophet one of the swift camels, but the Prophet insisted on paying its price. Their food supplies were carried in a bundle tied with a cloth that Asma, Abu Bakr's daughter, had fashioned from her torn waistband, a sacrifice that earned her the title, Asma, of the 2 waistbands. Thus, the blessed party, the Prophet, Abu Bakr, Amir bin Fuhaira, and Abdullah bin Urayqit, took off, not by the main road, but along the coastal paths, rarely used and more concealed. Their departure took place in Rabi al-Awwal, 1 around September 622 CE. Incidents along the road. The shade and the shepherd. One scorching day, with no shelter in sight, Abu Bakr found a shaded rock, cleaned the ground, laid down his cloak, and invited the Prophet to rest. He wandered off in search of food and met a young Bedouin shepherd seeking shade. He requested some milk, then cooled it with water and waited until the Prophet awoke and drank from it. Bukhari 1/510. A guide on the way. Curious travelers often asked Abu Bakr about his companion. He would reply, "He is a man guiding me on my way." People assumed he meant a physical guide through the desert. But what Abu Bakr really meant was, a guide on the way of truth and righteousness. Bukhari 1/556. Suraka's pursuit. The reward of 100 camels for capturing Muhammad attracted many bounty hunters. Among them was Suraka bin Malik, who learned of a group of travelers and secretly followed them, hoping to claim the prize. He mounted his horse and gave chase, but his horse stumbled and threw him off. He performed an ancient Arab ritual of drawing lots to seek divine approval, and the omens warned him to stop. Yet greed urged him forward. Again, he fell. But still, he pressed on, until he neared the Prophet. Abu Bakr grew anxious and glanced behind, but the Prophet remained calm, reciting verses of the Quran with complete trust in Allah. A third time, Suraka's horse faltered. Now, fear and insight dawned on him. Realizing these were signs from Allah, his heart softened. He rode forward, not as a captor, but as a penitent man, asking for forgiveness. He confessed his intent and the promise of the Quraysh. The Prophet forgave him and only asked him to divert others and keep their direction a secret. Suraka requested proof of pardon. Amir bin Fuhaira wrote a brief statement on a piece of parchment as a token. Bukhari 1/516, 1/554, Zad al-Ma'ad 2/53. Returning to Mecca, Suraka not only concealed the Prophet's path but actively discouraged others from pursuing him. The once declared enemy of Islam was now its quiet protector, a transformation from pursuer to believer. Don't be cast down, Allah is with us. Abu Bakr, R.A., recalled the intense suspense of the journey, saying, "We were emigrating while the Quraysh were actively pursuing us. None came close, except Suraka bin Malik bin Jusham, who approached on horseback. I said, "O Messenger of Allah, he's right behind us." But the Prophet calmly replied, "Do not be sad. Verily, Allah is with us." Bukhari. This unwavering trust in divine protection was a defining moment of the Hijra, a living example of serenity amidst danger. A blessed encounter, the tent of Mabad. As they journeyed, the Prophet and his companions came upon a modest tent near the desert path. It belonged to a noble and hospitable woman named Mabad al-Khuzayah, who often welcomed travelers. She sat outside on a mat, watching the road. The group, weary and parched, requested food or milk. She regretfully explained that her goats were out grazing, and the lone goat nearby had no milk. It had been a harsh, dry year. The Prophet asked permission to approach the goat. He touched its udder, invoking the name of Allah, and, to everyone's astonishment, milk began to flow abundantly. He offered the milk to Mabad first, then shared with his companions. Before leaving, he milked again, filled a container, and left it for her. Later, her husband, Abu Mabad, returned and was stunned by the unexpected presence of milk. She explained what had happened, describing in detail the stranger's noble face, eloquence, manners, and presence. Abu Mabad realized the truth at once. It was Muhammad, the very man the Quraysh are desperately looking for. He requested a full description and, moved by the miracle and honor of hosting him, composed verses of poetry in admiration. These verses soon spread across Mecca, recited so widely and beautifully that many thought them inspired by jinn. Even Asma bint Abi Bakr, upon hearing them, recognized that her father and the Prophet were nearing Medina. The poem began with gratitude to Allah for their guest, spoke of the inner peace of whoever accompanied him, and ended with an open call. Come and witness the goat, the milk, and the woman, all testifying to his truth. A new Muslim army in the desert. Not long after, the caravan met Abu Buraida, another man in search of the Quraysh bounty. But upon seeing the Prophet, speaking to him, and hearing the truth, his heart turned. He embraced Islam along with 70 of his men. Removing his turban, he wrapped it around his spear as a banner of Islam, symbolizing the dawn of peace and justice on earth. Rahmath al-Lil Alameen 1/101. Meeting Az Zubair. As they continued, they encountered a returning trade caravan from Syria, led by Az Zubair ibn al-Awwam, a devout companion. Overjoyed to meet the Prophet and Abu Bakr, Az Zubair gifted them 2 white garments, a gesture of honor and love that the two gratefully accepted. Bukhari 1/554. Arrival at Quba, the dawn of a new era. On a blessed Monday, the 8th of Rabi al-Awwal, in the 14th year of prophethood, September 23, 622 CE, the Messenger of Allah reached Quba, a village on the outskirts of Medina. Rahmath al-Lil Alameen 1/102. For days before his arrival, the people of Medina had been rising early each morning, climbing rooftops and palm trunks, scanning the horizon in anticipation. But every day, the burning midday sun would force them back in disappointment. Then, one day, a Jewish man glimpsed 3 figures in white moving slowly in the distance. From a hilltop he cried aloud, "O people of Arabia! Your awaited one has arrived, the man you've been longing for has come." The cry electrified Medina. Muslims rushed forth, armed and joyful, ready to greet and defend their noble guest. Bukhari 1/555. The echoes of Takbir and Revelation. As the Prophet entered the area of Banu Amr bin Awf, cries of Allahu Akbar erupted in the air. The joy was palpable, a tide of faith and fulfillment sweeping through the hearts of the Ansar. In this charged moment, the Prophet paused, and a serene stillness overtook him. Then revelation descended. Then verily, Allah is his protector, and Gabriel, and the righteous among the believers, and furthermore, the angels, are his helpers. Quran 66:4. Zad al-Ma'ad 2/54, Ibn Hisham 1/493. A moment of shade, a mark of loyalty. The Prophet sat quietly as crowds of Ansar, many of whom had never seen him before, approached in awe to greet him. The sun blazed above. Abu Bakr, ever devoted, stood up and shaded the Prophet with his cloak, a humble act of love, captured forever in Medinian memory. Bukhari 1/555. That day was unlike any other in Medina. Even the Jews, who had long clung to prophecies of a coming prophet, recognized in Muhammad the fulfillment of the words of their prophet Habakkuk. God came from Timon, the Holy One from Mount Paran. The first Islamic structure, Masjid Quba. The Prophet was hosted by Kulthum bin al-Hadm, a generous leader of the Amr bin Awf tribe. He stayed there for 4 days, Monday to Thursday. During this stay, he laid the foundation of Masjid Quba, the first mosque in Islam, built on purity and piety. Ali's journey of trust and loyalty. Meanwhile in Mecca, Ali ibn Abi Talib remained behind to carry out a noble duty, to return the entrusted belongings of the Prophet to their rightful owners. Only after fulfilling this trust did he begin his own migration, eventually joining the Prophet in Quba. Zad al-Ma'ad 254, Ibn Hisham 1/493. The triumphal entry into Medina. On a radiant Friday morning, the Messenger of Allah sent word to Banu an-Najjar, his maternal uncles, to accompany him and Abu Bakr into the city of Medina, then newly renamed from Yathrib, now known as the City of the Prophet. As they journeyed toward their new home, the streets were alive with joy. The Prophet was greeted by rows of Madinese men, women, and children lining the path with smiles, cheers, and songs of welcome. Bukhari 1/555. He paused briefly in the valley of Banu Salim, where he led the first Jumu'ah, Friday, prayer, attended by about 100 believers, a momentous congregation marking the official rise of Islam in its new base. A city competes in love. As news of his arrival spread, the tribes of Medina surged out of their homes, each hoping for the honor of hosting the messenger. Girls of Medina sang verses filled with love and loyalty. Tala'e al-Badru alayna. Min thaniyati al-wada. Wajaba al-shukru alayna. Mada'e lillahi da. The full moon rose over us. From the valley of farewell. And gratitude is due upon us. So long as anyone calls to Allah. The noble men, wearing their best garments and shining armor, eagerly walked beside the camel of the Prophet, each pleading. Descend here, O Messenger of Allah. Stay with us. But the Prophet replied gently and firmly. This camel is commanded by Allah. Wherever it stops, there shall be my abode. The divine station. The camel continued, slow and steady, until it reached a certain plot and knelt down, then rose again, moved forward, circled back, and finally sat at the same spot, a piece of land belonging to Banu Najjar, his maternal kin. The Prophet descended and declared, "Here is our stay, if Allah wills." This historic plot would become the sacred ground upon which Masjid an-Nabawi, the Prophet's mosque, would rise. Among the homes nearby was that of the fortunate and generous Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, who joyfully stepped forward to welcome the Prophet into his house. It was a moment of immense honor and gratitude. Zad al-Ma'ad 255. The blessed reunion. Soon after, the Prophet's family joined him in Medina. His wife Sauda, his daughters Fatima and Kulthum, Usama ibn Zayd, Ayman, and Abdullah ibn Abi Bakr arrived with Abu Bakr's household, including Aisha, R.A. Bukhari 1/556. His daughter Zainab was delayed, remaining with her husband Abu Ali with Makran, a matter that would resolve only after the Battle of Badr. Aisha later recalled the difficulties upon arrival. Both Abu Bakr and Bilal fell severely ill due to the unfamiliar climate. They recited verses filled with longing for Mecca and the nearness of death. When she informed the Prophet, he raised his hands in heartfelt prayer. O Allah, instill in us a love for Medina equal to or greater than the love we had for Mecca. O Allah, Bless Medina's provisions and convert its harshness into healing and nourishment. Bukhari 1 of 588.